My name is Petra. I'm writing this from my apartment at 6:43 in the morning. My hands are still shaking a little. Not the violent kind, it's just a fine tremor that makes the keys feel slightly wrong under my fingers, like something in my muscle memory is still catching up to the fact that I'm home. That I'm warm. That the light above my kitchen table is on and it won't go out when I need it most. I'm going to try to write this as clearly as I can, in order, because I need to make sense of it. And because Sarah's friend, we'll call him Anthony, asked me to. He asked me to keep his real name hidden and I'll respect that. He said the account matters. That every account matters, even the ones that don't follow the usual shape. Especially those. I'm 26. I have a master's degree in cultural heritage documentation and a deep and abiding talent for taking jobs that make my mother lose sleep. 3 nights ago was my first graveyard shift at the Therralian cave system. It was also the night I lost the list. I need to back up. I took the job because I needed the money. That's the whole story. No mystique, no deeper pull toward the unknown. My student loans don't care about mystique. My landlord doesn't accept deeper pulls toward the unknown as a form of rent payment. The Heritage Preservation Program was offering a graveyard shift documentation rate that was almost double what the daytime contractors were getting, and when my classmate Sarah mentioned it I said yes before she even finished the sentence. I met Anthony through Sarah about 3 days before my start date. Sarah had mentioned him in the context of the caves the way you mention someone who knows how to defuse a bomb, with the specific reverence of someone who understands they personally do not have that skill set. He met me at a coffee shop off the main road the evening before my shift. He showed up in a gray jacket and ordered black coffee without looking at the menu. And he sat across from me and gave me a look that I can only describe as a person doing a quiet assessment. He told me about the rules. All 11 of them. He was slow and careful, making sure I understood each one before moving to the next. He had a handwritten copy on 3 sheets of notebook paper, front and back. His handwriting was dense and deliberate and he'd circled certain words and underlined others, and in the margin next to Rule 11 he'd written something I couldn't fully read but caught the end of. It remembers. When he was done, he handed the pages to me. 3 of them. Any other copies I need? I laughed a little. He didn't. He simply stared at me until I became almost uncomfortable. I have digital copies, he said finally. But I personally find that having a physical piece is more grounding. Besides, phones have been known to go away down there. So, how dangerous is it really? He picked up his coffee and thought about that for a long moment. You know how some people go swimming in water that's technically survivable, he said, and some people don't come back from it. Yeah, I nodded. It's like that. The water's the same water, but the outcome isn't. Right. I said, trying to ignore the goosebumps I was getting. He told me to read the list at least 3 times before my first shift. More if I could manage it. He told me to take my time with it, especially Rule 11, because Rule 11 was the one that changed how all the others worked. I read it twice. Once before the drive home and once when I got there with the pages spread across my passenger seat. Then my phone went off. I was going to be late. I shoved them into my bag without thinking, and they slid to the bottom under my water bottle and a library book I've been meaning to return for 6 weeks and a broken set of earbuds. I told myself I'd read them again that evening. I forgot. The Heritage Preservation Program that hired me isn't complicated in theory. The Therralian cave system has inscription markings in the deeper chambers. Carvings. Some of them are several thousand years old and some of them are deteriorating faster than the academic community is comfortable with. My job was to go in during the low traffic hours with the documentation kit. I had a ruggedized tablet, a portable ultraviolet lamp, reference tags, and a camera. And I was supposed to photograph and catalog what was there before it wasn't there anymore. The program had been trying to get someone willing to do the night shifts for 3 months before I applied. The previous 2 candidates had pulled out before their first shift. One of them cited a family emergency. The other one just stopped answering emails. I didn't think much of that at the time. I showed up at 11:45 p.m. on a Thursday. The access coordinator, a compact man named Brett who clearly wanted to be somewhere else, handed me my equipment lanyard and a park-issue electric lantern and walked me through the check-in protocol with the energy of someone reciting a legal disclaimer. I asked him about the rules. The ones the locals have. The folklore ones. He looked at me sideways and said, the program's official position was that the cave system was a heritage site and should be treated with professional respect, and that local superstitions, while culturally significant, were not a determining factor in site access procedure. I said, right, but he handed me a hard hat. Have a good shift. He walked away. So that was that. I adjusted the lantern strap on my wrist and headed toward the 4th marker with my documentation kit, my catalog sheets, my 2 good degrees and no list. The thing about entering the caves at night is that the absence of the entrance light happens faster than you expect. During the day, there's this long gradual fade as you go deeper. The daylight pulls back by degrees. You can track it. It's almost gentle. At night, you go past the 2nd marker and you turn a corner and then it's just done. Gone. The dark is total and it's immediate, and the lantern I had a Park Issue 1, bright setting, which I did not know was wrong yet made hard white circles on the walls and threw everything outside of those circles into absolute black. I thought about the list. I thought specifically about the part where Ren said not to use a flashlight. And then I thought about the part where he said the lantern shouldn't be on its brighter settings. I reached into my bag to find the pages. My hand closed on my water bottle, which was apparently not sealed the way I thought it was, because my fingers came up wet. I tried again and found the library book, also wet, and then the earbuds, and then the pages. I already knew from the texture what I was going to find. Wet paper. The 3 sheets pressed together and the ink was already bleeding into gray-blue smears. I held them under the lantern and tried to read the first rule and got the night is not your Friday before the words dissolved into nothing. The rest was worse. Wet ink and disintegrated paper and 3 weeks of someone's careful handwriting turned into abstract watercolor. I stood there in the dark at the 3rd marker and held ruined paper in my hand. I thought about turning around. I want you to know that. I want to be honest about the fact that the thought crossed my mind and I considered it seriously for about 15 seconds. Then I thought about the access coordinator's face. About the 2 previous candidates who didn't show. About my start date and my first impression and the fact that this was my job and I was already here and the markings in the deep chambers were not going to document themselves. I folded the ruined pages and put them back in my bag. I dialed the lantern down from bright. And I kept walking. At first the only wrong thing was the silence. Now, I know what you're thinking. It's a cave. Of course it's silent. But this was different. I've done field work. Caves, ruins, abandoned sites after dark. There's Awa.